Hot Rod Drag Week superstar and Sick Week founder, the one, the only, Tom Bailey. What's up, big dog? How are you, man?
I'm doing great. Thanks,
What's
Wes.
up, Tom?
Yeah, how'd you like do you like that Hot Rod Drag Week superstar, the living legend, God's favorite drag racer? No, I could go on and on and on, man. How are you? Thanks for joining us, dude.
Oh no, appreciate being on the show. No, that's the thing. It's like I watched the what was it? It was the Rams game the other night that they had the guy, let's get ready to rumble to start the game. I'm like, when you get that iconic open to a football game with let's get ready to rumble. So that was the equivalent there. That's
okay, good. I'm glad. You're throwing me in the ring with what's his name? Bruce Buffer. And what's his brother's name?
Michael Buffer.
Buffer. Yeah. Let's get ready. Man, I'm going to do that to open the show one of these days.
We need him. We need him for the DI Awards. Does anybody know him?
If anybody knows Michael Buffer, shoot him a text and say your friend Wes needs a favor. No big deal. We just need him to spend like a half hour with us on a random Thursday night. But anyways, Tom's flipping the lights on or off in the office there.
I think trying to get better background light in here.
You look pretty good, big dog. Well, hey, I'm sure you're worn slick right now, as many of the people that watch this show have either been involved in putting on a race or go to races all the time. It's no secret, a tremendous amount of work, but holy crap, multiple stops in 1 week. What's it been like wrapping your head around the project that Sick Week has become, Tom? Of what's it, 5 days on the road drag racing? We're going to Bradenton, going to Orlando, going to Gainesville, going to SGMP, going back to Bradenton. Whole lot of drag racing, a whole lot that has to happen inside of 5 days, man. Take us through kind of where you're at and what this whole experience has been like.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing. Like it came about like when we started the magazine earlier, we're like, oh, well, we should just have our own event. And we're like, oh, a couple years down the road, that'll be great. And then at Drag Week, I didn't participate this year, just getting over the Rona part of it. But then going through there and then talking about the ideas with it and for it. And everybody's like, oh, we just need to do it now. And it's like, you know what? It's really not that big a deal. I've been to lots of these things. It should be easy. We'll do that in February. And come to find out there was a whole bunch of things that I guess I take for granted, all the people behind the scenes that make stuff happen. And I've been fortunate with the crew we've assembled that I got Jenny, used to work with Hot Rod FM3, planning drag weeks, have her on as an event planner that, I mean, it was just by sheer luck that happened, but that's been a lifesaver because she's handled a lot of the details. I'm kind of I like the big picture, and then to work out the details, I usually I rely on other people for those. So.
You sound like Mike and I. It sounds a lot like Mike Carpenter and Wes Buck. Like Wes has got big ideas, and I can come up with ideas like as many as you want. But I'm with you. I'm like, hey, I want to have this big ass awards show, and I want it to be the biggest thing that ever happened. You guys hit me up when you're done with it.
Yeah,
ready,
exactly.
I'll be there.
No, you really talk about that. I'm like, that's kind of the same thing. It's like, well, we want to have this. And it sounds easy because it only takes me seconds to come up with the idea. So it took me seconds to solve the issue.
Yeah, that's definitely us. You really should have consulted with us before you tried to dive into the magazine and events business. We could have steered you in the right direction, clearly away from those things. But not, I mean, this deal, obviously, having been around and having made contacts with those people that you were mentioning at Hot Rod Drag Week and everything, it kind of seems like just the natural evolution to have something like this.
Yeah, and I mean, this is it's the culmination of all the years of saying, man, if we did this, this is how we should do it, and this is what we should do different, and this, and so now it's like trying to remember all those things that we talked about and make sure to try and bring it into the event. And then, I mean, what we thought is like, hey, it's whatever. I mean, we just started the magazine, like we'll get this going. It'll be kind of small. A lot of people probably won't attend. No first-time events really have a big draw, and then it's like the ball started rolling, and I mean, when we opened the event up, and then you always hear about systems crash and when people have a lot of people to jump on at the same time. And so test that a little bit ahead of time, but then we go on in 3 minutes, sold out 350 spots. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, and
I don't think people sometimes recognize that in this internet age that we're living in. And Tom, I think you can appreciate this, that all the numbers are like bullshit. You know what I mean? Like everybody's got 1 million views and 60,000, blah, 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 blah. And, I get it, right? That's all well and good. But 350 people to inside of a few minutes, stroke a check to pay their money and participate in this deal. mean, that's a whole lot of cars, man. There aren't that many events in our whole industry that generate that kind of participation, let alone run them all over creation, right? I mean, it's going to be a sight to behold, just that group of cars going to and fro these different racetracks, man. I'm genuinely excited about it. What has been the biggest challenge, like as far as infrastructure is concerned? Because I mean, these tracks are ready for it. But what about like the route and all that type of stuff that is kind of, I don't know a lot about. How did those things come together? Where we're going to stop or where we're going to stay, or is there check-ins? I am assuming, or something like that.
Yeah, checkpoints. Yep. Yeah. I mean, the key that we had, because a lot of times the checkpoints seem like an afterthought, and we're like, I mean, there's a couple goals in it. One is that, obviously, I mean, most of us have been through the rigors of a 400-mile night day, racing in the morning, driving our street strip car to the next track, 400 miles, getting in at 2 a.m, getting up the next day, doing it all over again. And the idea was that, I mean, I've tested in Florida for multiple winters now, and it's like, man, I mean, there is top of the line drag strips. And then we started actually looking at it, saying, well, wait, we could make every drive less than 200 miles. And we still have the proven the street ability of all the vehicles, but we could actually enjoy the drive. We could also enjoy the checkpoints along the way. So one of our big deals with checkpoints, and we tried to go to Disney, and that was going to be the checkpoint, was at the Disney Springs or whatever. It used to be downtown Disney.
I actually love that area. I'm a bit of a grown,
I was there like
a year
ago, and we stayed at the Disney campground, and it was like awesome. You could go over there, hang out and everything. And well, Luke and I, when I was down there for one of the Cletus races, and we drove it, we go to Disney, and now there's like a metal detector to get in. And my sweatshirt says something on the back of it that is whatever, not politically correct, I guess, for Mickey. But so I was told I couldn't even go into Disney Springs. I'm like, it's a public open area. And nope. Like, I'm like, all right, so this isn't going to be good for us to bring 500 like-minded people to this area at one time. They can maybe handle a few of us, but I think 500 people might get out of control.
I like the sound of it, man. And it's like, I noticed that like Big Daddy Don Garlitz's Museum of Drag Racing was one of the checkpoints, I believe.
Yeah, that's going to be a big highlight, because when we leave South Georgia Thursday morning, then we're going to Don's shop, and we've got run of the museum. Catering trucks are going to be in there. We also have, actually, you talked about it earlier, we got Nitro Margarita Maker coming in there at that checkpoint. And that should be a great time. And then we're not racing until Friday in the afternoon, so we'll be able to make the drive Friday morning.
JT's coming. All you had to do was say Nitro.
He said Margarita Machine. I'm in.
Margarita Mixer and JT's booking a flight. You also mentioned there's a pre-party at Cletus's Freedom Factory, right? So that's where the whole deal is going to kick off, again, I point to the magic oftentimes with these deals is bringing all these people together that are kind of from different walks of the car culture scene. I love to see. There was a post in the Sick Week group on Facebook inside of the last couple of days, and it was just people talking about all these different people that are coming, right? And it's a really eclectic group. I think I've used that word 3 times today, so it might become the new drinking game, but it's true, right? I mean, you got the hardcore hot rod magazines, right? Freiberger and Finnegan. These are iconic car culture guys. Alex Taylor, a bit of a fresh face and in a newfound automotive influencer, big following on social media. Cletus, this YouTube superstar. But you have some hardcore drag racing folks like ourselves, which was part of the reason we brought you on here today.
Right. Was
to announce that very exciting Drag Illustrated will be covering Sick Week in its entirety. Tom and I had a conversation about so many of these, and I don't really mean to reference Sick Week as an outlaw event, but these events that aren't like tied to NHRA, they oftentimes don't have the record keeping and the detailed results and coverage that a lot of fans want to see. And I think it speaks to the significance of events when you can easily pull up Google and find out who won Sick Week Unlimited category in 2022. Like that needs to be, and that's something that we pride ourselves in doing here at Drag Illustrated. So Tom and I got on the phone last week, and it's like, you know what? We'll go every day. We'll put out a recap after every race. So, ladies and gentlemen, fans, participants, make sure that you stay tuned to dragillustrated.com. We're going to have daily updates on what happened today, who's doing well, who's who's leading the pack, etc. So every night we'll be posting a release on dragillustrated.com, sending it out to all of our partners in the media, from Competition Plus to Dragzine to everything in between, to make sure that in the years to come, and as this event continues to grow and become even more significant than it already is, you'll be able to look back and easily find who won, what happened, and keep these guys celebrated, their name and lights throughout the week. We're excited about it, Tom, and we really appreciate you having us, man. Thank you.
Oh yeah, no problem. And I guess that's the other thing when you say about the seriousness of the racers. I was talking to somebody about the other day, but we have 4 classes that quite possibly will have 6-second or better averages for the week. That's 5 days in a street-driven car, 6-second average in the quarter mile. It's never been done.
Stupid. We should call it Stupid Week. That is bananas. It really is. If you think about it, and I don't mean to go down the rabbit hole of how far this deal has come, but holy crap, right? If you think about some of the early, Larry Larson's Nova, right? Wasn't it? What did that car run initially, Tom? Whenever the drag week was first coming about, was it a high 7-second car?
It was either high 7-second or 8s.
Yeah, I think it's a low high 7s, in mineshaft conditions in Topeka in October, right? But I think that it was a huge deal when he went in the 7s. To think about the progression inside a relatively short amount of time, man, drag racers will get shit out of control in a hurry.
Yeah. Well, no, and that's the thing. When he ran, 2010 was my first drag week, and that's the last pass was when he made the first 6-second pass. It was 698, 697. And I remember standing there with my buddy, and we were running 8s in a 69 Camaro or whatever, and saying, that's insane. I would never do that. As you watch it, I just wouldn't do it. That is out of control. And then fast forward a few years, and I'm doing a 6 every day. And now it's
running 5s, right?
We've been 5s, but and that's, we got a couple 5-second capable cars that obviously with my car, I'm hoping to set, not to be, I guess, cocky, but my goal is to go win my own event. I have all these people on board to take care of things so that I can just be a racer. Now, I hope I pull it off, but then to go run 5s and trying to run a 5 every day. So
so that's the stated goal.
Yeah.
Tom Bailey's saying it right here on the Wes Buck Show. You're the goal is to run 5s every day.
Yep. Yeah, no, without a doubt. That's the last barrier. I broke into the 5s. Now the only barrier that hasn't been broke so far is to run a 5 every day. I used to say, well, nobody will go faster than a 5, but nobody was going to go faster.
I'm covered in goosebumps. Shocking. That's insane though. And it really speaks to the thing. A couple of questions before we let you go, Tom. And again, we really appreciate your time, but what can you say about the reliability? That's the thing that I think when I talk to old timer drag racers, guys that have been around this sport for a long time. The thing that everybody really struggles to kind of wrap their head around is the fact that you're able to create performances like that, go 5 seconds in the quarter mile, right, Tom? But keep that thing together from race to race, from track to track, while driving it a couple of 100 miles. Do you ever have to take a step back and you're like, holy crap, how does any of this stuff live? How does it stay together? Because, it wouldn't be that long ago that you wouldn't even attempt to do this type of thing.
Oh, without a doubt. It's all trial and error. And that's when, 2010 was my first drag week. And back then when you used to talk about things that I was trying to go faster, you'd say, hey, will this alternate, like Power Master, will this alternator spin backwards? Because the only way that I can mount it in my car is going to be backwards for it to work right. Because obviously we're taking race setups and saying, how do I put an alternator on it? And they're like, I don't know. If it works, will you let us know? Because and it's the same thing with like Isky and stuff. And we're like, hey, with these rocker arms, will this happen? And will you let us know how it turns out? And now it's like
the R&D department.
Yeah. And that's the thing is now you say, hey, and they're like, oh yeah, we know that this can handle 5,000 horsepower for whatever, 40 hours, no problem. It's the technology has came so far that what we're doing is not whatever. Sometimes I'm like, just pissed because I'm like, dude, I did this when it was hard. Now it's getting easy. Like, I mean, like 8-second LS cars. I mean, you know what? They're a dime a dozen street driven 8-second LS cars. You can go
all these Coyote Mustangs. Like I talked to somebody and they're like, oh, it runs 560s in the 8th mile and it's stock bottom end, stock transmission. And I'm like, what? I mean, it's terrifying, really, if you think about it. And talk us a little bit. I don't think we could have you on here, Tom, and not get uphill both ways type of story out of you. I saw a comment a second ago. Tom drove SICK 2.0 in the snow with no front and rear windows. That's hardcore. I mean, we're not going to have snow, right? And that in Florida, thank God. But what do you expect being the huge challenges, or do you suspect? I mean, you can't really have one of these drag and drive type events without stories like that being produced. Am I right?
Oh yeah, no, and that's the old adage, and anybody that's done it a few times will tell you that like the best thing you can do, because I mean, for people that don't know, we have to take all our parts with us. So we have a little trailer that gets towed behind the race car with all our spare parts and our tools in it. So, I mean, we can get stuff overnighted into a track or stuff like that, but there is no chase vehicles. There is no support vehicles of any time. That's illegal. So, the idea is you put as much shit in your trailer as you can. That way you won't need it. Because the one thing you didn't bring because you thought I'm all set, my water pump, you know what? I mean, that thing's lasted for 3 years. It's perfect. And that'll be what breaks if you don't bring it. And that's the bad part about it. The more shit you bring, the less stuff you'll break is kind of the way it works.
It's such an interesting thing. Are you at all surprised to see this, knowing how hard it is? I mean, even if you're going to go bracket racing, it can be a challenge, right? I mean, drag racing it's effort heavy, but when you go driving cars like this for hundreds of miles, beating the dog crap out of them day in and day out, what is the, how do you say? What do you think how do you? What's the way? I'm trying to frame this question. I know I'm trying to frame this question so we get like a deep answer. You know, like. What is, I guess, what do you expect to be the biggest challenge in Florida this particular year? Like, do you see it being, is there anything that you think that particular part of the country or the climate, because it can be warm down there, right? I mean, it may be Florida in February, but it could be like 80, 90 degrees, right?
Yeah, no. And I mean, last year for Matt Frost Rocky Mountain 1, I did with my boy, that was the first time with 57 wagon. It was over 100 degrees for 3 days. And like, in the mountains, in like literally like it could not get any hotter. The surface of the sun probably was cooler than that car was inside. But I mean, it's always going to be the same thing. It always comes down to cooling, it comes down to charging, and it comes down to valve train. I mean, those are the three critical items that really
are tested, put to the
exactly that your car beats on.
Are you surprised that these drag and drive events are popping up like they are, and like the participation is what it is? Because where I was going with that question initially was just that drag racing is already hard. This is perhaps the hardest type of drag racing there is. And if you look around the world, and I don't mean to offend anybody, but we're kind of seeing a big push towards making everything easier. People don't like hard, right? I mean, it's the ongoing pansyification kind of our world. You would think, man, who wants to go work this hard? I mean, it's a unique group of people, right? I mean, are you surprised that these events are popping up like they are and the participation is what it is?
I mean, I think at the core value, you have a lot of people that do take the pansy approach, but I mean, guaranteed those are not our people. So Those aren't the drag racing people. Those aren't the people in this community. So I think the challenge part, which is that's the part, is like to do what they say can't be done. It's like, well, you can't take a 5-second car and you can't drive that on the street because it's illegal. And okay, I mean, yep, it's illegal to you. I get that. But, well, the cops will never allow it. Like, I mean, there's a million things. But you know what? Every time I see a cop and buy a cop, all they want to do is check out the car. Like, granted, you'll have that one nerdy one that whatever, he doesn't understand it. But for the most part, everybody just appreciates the effort that goes into it. And that's the reason people do it, I think, is that, hey, having your race car that you take to the track, you unload it out of the trailer, you go make a run and you break it and you say, fuck. And then, oh, sorry, I don't know if
you're fine. You're fine. We're on the internet.
Now you take it back and you put it in the trailer, and then you take it home. And by the time some people get to it, they forgot what broke, and they're like, "Oh man, I gotta like figure this all out again." Well, we're in a situation to where you got to figure it out because that's your transportation. So like you got to figure out how to not only fix it, but get it to go 200 miles so that you can wake up the next day and do it again. Because that's the part. You'll get the people that say, "I'm a bracket racer." Yep, all that's cool. Like the fact that you run 8s, whatever, that's awesome. And it's street legal. My car's street legal. I drive it in and out of the trailer every time I go to the track. Like, okay, that's great. But now get in it, drive it 200 miles to the next track, get up in the morning, go run that 8 with it, and then drive it another 200 miles. Like nobody races 5 days at 5 different tracks, 5 days in a row. I don't know anybody that does it. Now drive that piece of shit from this track to the next track to the next track to the next track. Like
it's crazy, man. I mean, it really is. I remember I used to think that like Hot Rod Power Tour was like pretty hardcore. You know what I mean? And you're just like driving from place to place and parking your shit. You know what I mean? Wiping it off. Yep. You know, this, you're going to go beat on it and race it. I remember I went on Power Tour. I was a long hauler in 2003. And I remember most people, even when we would stop at a drag strip, I remember stopping in St. Louis. Most of the Power Tour people didn't want to go down the track because they didn't want to risk tearing their car up, right? Nobody wanted to tear anything up because then we got to go to the next spot. And it's just funny, like, hey, man, we're going to make that part of the deal. So a couple of closing notes, Tom, real quick. Will you run through the locations? I know you mentioned 350 people entered. We're talking about this deal kicking off on February 16th, 17th? When is it?
February 6th.
6th, that's what I meant. Yeah, February 6th. We start at Cletus McFarland's Freedom Factory, a pre-party. The first opening day of racing is at Bradenton, correct?
Correct. Yep.
And then we go to?
Yep. Tech is Sunday morning. We have testing on the track from 12 to 6. We got the pre-party sponsored by TBM Brakes at the Freedom Factory. So that goes 6 to 8. That's food and drinks open to the public to come check out the cars. A lot of the cars will be on display there. Then Monday morning, we start bright and early, racing 9 to 3. We make the drive to Orlando, Old Town, and then we're going to Ozzy's place, racing Tuesday morning. Then we make the drive. That's actually going to be a cool drive because we're going over to the coast. We're going right through Daytona Beach. So over on the coast, on the beach access road, straight up and back around into Gainesville.
No joke. Okay.
So, yeah, that's no drag and drive event's ever had the ocean in the background. So, awesome. That's going to be pretty sweet. And then we cut over to Gainesville. We leave Gainesville. We go up to South Georgia on Thursday, race in the morning. We go to Don Garlett's shop, hang out Thursday night. And then Friday morning, we drive back to Bradenton and finish it all off. Finishing 2 to 8, I think we run on Friday. So, but here's one thing I'll tell you though, is like a lot of people, like what they chicken out and they say, I can't be without a support vehicle because my car, if it breaks down, I'm not going to leave my race car sitting on the side of the road and whatever. I can tell you, I've broke many, many times on the side of the road and I have never been stranded because one thing, if you drive a classic car or a cool car, one thing people don't understand is people actually like you. So don't stop.
No one's going to leave you.
Trailer. They won't like, I've had people drive me 400 miles, get a trailer, take me and my car back to the starting track, wouldn't accept a dime for it just because they thought it was cool what we were doing and trying to attempt. And that's what people don't understand. Like nobody has ever been stuck. And that's the other drag and drive deal. A car pulls over on the side of the road. Like we have a wave, got the Jeep wave. You got the I'm okay wave because if not, you got 50 fucking cars stacked behind you on the side of the road seeing how they can help. Like, and that's what's cool about it is like the same as like
no man left behind, right?
Yeah.
Right.
We had someone in the comments say that said in total strangers on hand to help fix the car.
Just don't be the last guy out of the track. That's kind of the trick because it sucks when there's nobody behind you and you're like, and I've been that guy before in the middle of a cornfield, 2 a.m. with a light on, changing all the lifters out because we crushed 2 of them. But I mean, and that's the thing is like the stories, the adventure part of it, and that's part of our whole sick philosophies. It's for the fucking adventure. So like, it's to break shit and then figure out how to fix it and make it to the next stop. Like if nothing goes wrong, it's kind of boring.
Yep.
Absolutely.
That's what makes it unique.
So.
I'm genuinely excited about it. I just talking to you about the route and I was looking at Google Maps. I'm like, man, this could be a really fun drive. And it's great tracks, great venues. People are going to have the time of their lives. God only knows where this deal will ultimately end up, man. I'm curious. What has been the feedback from like some of the, I won't say your competition in this space, but like Hot Rod Drag Week guys? Are people excited that there are more events like this? Do people get sensitive about it, or how's that reception been?
No, I mean, the reception with everybody's been awesome. And that's where like, it's the same deal. And all the events are selling out quickly. So it's like, there's no saturation level to where one event's got to compete with the other. For the most part, everybody tries to plan them at different times of the year. And everybody's on board. I mean, with my magazine, with Sick the Mag, I mean, our idea was to cover this because this was an area kind of the same as when you guys started doing everything and covering all the pro mod stuff. Nobody was doing it. And that's kind of the same thing with Drag and Drive, which it's awesome to have you guys on board helping to cover this stuff as well, the Drag and Drive style cars, because I mean, this is the everyday folk. Like a lot of times we say, oh, we're all everyday folk in the racing community. Well, a lot of these people, like, I mean, we're putting $1,000 ship boxes on the cover of the magazine because it was cool and they made it through the race. And I mean, and that's the part that there's this, everybody's in the same. So you got Matt Frost is actually participating in my event. He does Rocky Mountain Race Week. He puts that on Rocky Mountain 1 and 2. Well, he's actually racing in my event. And then you got Just Hyde with Midwest Drags, obviously all on board with everything. And then, I mean, you got Freiberger and Finnegan are coming and racing at Sick Week. So that's Hot Rod. So
I think it's really cool, man. And I'm glad to hear that because you never know, right? You never know how those type of things are going to be, how people are going to react to it. And people are oftentimes quick to get a little threatened, you know, and especially with, man, I got to tell you, being in the print and publishing business for as long as we have, you guys are doing something clearly special with Sick the Magazine, man. Great looking publication, fantastic, serving a really strong niche in our sport, doing good work. Luke, probably one of the most talented photographers in our whole sport. We actually worked with Luke for the World Door Slammer Nationals in 2021, and he blew our minds. Like he has a real talent for storytelling by photography and via videography. So excited to see what this whole deal ultimately becomes.
Like just to give the Luke accolade there, whatever the first issue, some other people helped out finally with the second issue on writing, but it was something like 40,000 words, and Luke wrote the first issue. All the pictures, did editing, and wrote the whole freaking thing. Like, I mean,
unfortunately, I know that dance, as does Mike. Fortunately, I will say give a kudos to my team. I hardly write any of the words in the magazine these days. I write a few, but I mean, I remember those, issues 1 through probably, I don't know, 70 something, 100. I think I wrote almost every word that was printed in the damn thing, almost every caption, and it's an incredible thing that you guys are doing. We're genuinely excited about it. And again, though, but we are excited to my goal when we started talking is I want the winner of Sick Week to be one of these guys that we're mentioning alongside Steve Torrence, right? Or alongside Ryan Martin, these No Prep Kings superstars. I want to make sure that we're doing our part to be inclusive. We talk about that all the time, to wrap our arms, so to speak, around this entire sport, not just certain parts of it, right? But the entire sport, and celebrate everybody and try to do our part to reward these men and women for all the money spent and the time and energy. We're getting a lot of people asking, Tom, and we'll cut you loose. Is there an entry list that people can see, or is that a private thing?
The entry list, it'll be published here in the next week or so.
Okay.
Like it's gone through with dropouts and then with other people coming in off the wait list. I mean, we had over 600 people on the wait list to try and get into the event. So, so as people have dropped, then we've been working on filling that in, but it'll definitely be out well prior to the event. So.
Okay, fantastic. Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only, the man on a mission for a 5-second average at Sick Week, the one and only Tom Bailey. Tom, thank you so much for being a part of this, dude. We need to get you on here again and talk for like 3 hours and get some of these stories. We're going to try to do at least one live remote along the way during Sick Week. But we will catch up with you. I think we're going to have you on immediately after Sick Week to kind of recap everything. So we'll have more Tom Bailey, and hopefully we'll get some pretty badass war stories and adventure tales from you after Sick Week's in the books, man. We're excited to be a part of it, a really small part of it, brother.
Appreciate it. So
thanks, Tom.
Thanks, Tom.
All right, thanks for having me.
Round of applause. We'll talk to you soon, big dog. Thank you.
Thanks, man.